saying, whatever folks want to do, and in my case it's repeal laws, that's all well and good, but if the president's not going to sign it, then what good are you? And if you can't implement laws, then the next best thing you can do is defund laws that are out there, the power of the purse, and what can I do to be successful in defunding things? You know, you think back, and it was a wonderful model back in 1995. I know there's some folks who look back on the Gingrich years and say they squandered their opportunity. But you know, Gingrich went up there with that contract to America, said, "I'm going to give you 10 votes in 100 days," and he gave us 10 votes in 100 days, and the House passed every single one of those bills. Term limits required a supermajority because it was a constitutional amendment. We got the simple majority to pass it, but we couldn't get the supermajority because we couldn't get the Democrats to join with us. So that was the one bill that didn't pass, but we still held the vote. The other 9 bills in the Contract of America passed. Well, part of that commitment to doing what you said you were going to do was the largest discretionary spending reduction that we'd seen in a generation. And you remember it led to that government shutdown in 1996, the winter of 95, the spring of 96. Pardon? Well, I think that's exactly right. And this district believes that. This district lets you go up and say, it's not about going along and getting along. And maybe it seems a little drastic if you live in California, if you live in upstate New York, or if you live in the Midwest. But to us, here in Georgia, shutting down the government is not a drastic solution. It may just be the only arrow we have left in our quiver. And so, defunding things with a new Republican speaker, and I believe we're going to take the House in November. I don't know that it will be a conservative majority, but it's going to be a Republican majority, and it's not going to be this 40-vote majority Nancy Pelosi has. It's going to be a 2, 3, 5, 6, maybe 10 if we're lucky majority. So it's not going to be easy. I hope folks don't promise you the world because it's going to be hard to make things happen. But defunding is going to be the right place to go. But the only way to enforce defunding is to be willing to take it all the way to a government shutdown. I'm willing to make that. I'm willing to do that. We'll furlough our staff. We'll make those sacrifices. We'll sort that out. However, we need to sort it out to keep the phones open, but the lights out. And I believe that member after member after member will feel the very same way. But I don't even think it's going to come to that. I'll tell you, I don't think it's going to come to that because the lunacy of what has happened over the last 3 years is astonishing. And here we are, deficit spending, discretionary spending, which is the thing we mostly argue about, because Medicare and Social Security and Medicaid, that's the big part of the spending, but it's harder to grapple with. It flows out the door whether we vote or not. Discretionary spending has increased 20%. 20% in this recessionary time. So we don't even have to talk about the pain. You know, after we've made some budget cuts in the 90s, it became hard to go in and find dollars. You had to really find some pain. You started to get some tougher programs. But right now, it is low-hanging fruit. Low-hanging fruit if you talk about what kind of dollars you want to freeze, or what kind of dollars you want to start taking away. And I will tell you that I support, it's a no-brainer. It's not enough. It's a starting point that people portray as radical. A complete discretionary spending freeze beginning on day 1, on January 3rd. But again, that's not enough. We've got to peel it backwards. But there's absolutely no account on the federal ledger that needs more dollars after the tremendous increase that we've seen over the past 3 cycles. So I would absolutely support defunding, but I think we're actually going to get some laws passed. I mean, think back again. The only model we have for this divided government, was back in 1995 and 96, 97, and 98. And we passed with a conservative Republican Congress and a man who sold himself to America as being in the center, turned out to be far to the left, and then got pulled back to the center by a conservative Congress. Does this bring any parallels for anyone about where we are right now? We passed balanced budgets. We passed welfare reform. We passed a transportation highway funding bill. We passed health care reform and the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. Item after item after item. We passed with a conservative Congress. I don't mean we. I mean we passed with a conservative Congress and a liberal president. And I think President Obama's gotten the message. And I think there are absolutely things that we can do. He's going to be a one-term president. I mean, if the Congress is doing the will of the people, talking about frustration for folks calling during the healthcare debate. You know, the most frustrated people I've talked to during the healthcare debate were Democrats who said, you know what, Rob, I was on board with this. I thought we were doing the right thing for the nation. But now that I see it going through in the middle of the night, and nobody can offer an amendment, you're not allowed to read it, and we're going to jam it through, and all this self-enacting legislation, now as a Democrat I start to feel dirty. Because if it's such a good idea, and my president told me it was a good idea, and my congressman told me it was a good idea, if it's such a good idea, why can't we do it in the bright light of day and all celebrate that victory when we're done? That's going to be another part of the advanced politics that's going to take place next year. We have all been spectacular at identifying Speaker Pelosi's flaws over the past 4 years. I mean, you know, they're easy to pick out. Again, low-hanging fruit, low-hanging fruit. But we have been vigilant about, hey, that's not fair. You got to give the majority a right to vote. You got to give the minority some amendments on those bills, some discussion. You've got to give people time to read the bills. You've got to give folks, you've got to move it through the committee process, not just drop it into the Congress in the middle of the night. We are right every time we say each one of those things. But in January of 2011, it will then be incumbent on us to hold the Republican leadership to that same standard. And Newt Gingrich will be the first to tell you things got away from us in 1998 when Republicans in Congress decided that preserving power was more important than demonstrating you deserved power. And they changed, and they started doing wishy-washy votes, and so on and so on and so on. Started trying to cram things through when they didn't need to. It is important. The tyranny of the majority is dangerous, but the tyranny of the minority is dangerous too, and it is the hypocrisy of Washington, D.C. is what troubles me the most. Because again, if it's wrong, it's wrong. It's not just wrong because Speaker Pelosi does it. It would be wrong if Speaker Gingrich did it, or Speaker Boehner did it, or Speaker Pence did it. So I believe, as we've had these living room conversations throughout the district, that folks will support me on that, saying, you know what, if it's wrong, and we can do better, because we really can, right? I mean, it's not that Democrats are bad people, it's that they have bad ideas, and we really do have the good ideas, so we really can withstand that conversation. What do we care about rushing a bill through in the middle of the night? Have it on C-SPAN for 3 days, because our ideas are good ideas, and the more people who hear them, the more people who will be attracted to them. And so I will be very strong on making sure that we hold our Republican leadership to the same standard that we've been vigilant on holding our Democratic leadership to. But